Hi, my name is Parcsen, and welcome to another edition of Ordinary Fathers. We are all ordinary fathers, and today I'm be speaking to one. His name is Kok Liang. Hi, Kok Liang. Good morning to you, and thank you for
Good
taking the
morning.
time to come and speak with us. Tell us a bit about yourself for the benefit of our listeners.
As Parcsen had introduced, my name is Kok Liang. I have a fairly average-sized family. I have a boy and a girl. My boy is primary four this year, and my girl has just turned K2 at the point of recording. So I guess the normal concerns that I have with most of parents in Singapore about studies, about taking care of children, about balancing work life. I think those are what many parents are facing, myself included. So I'm very happy to be here to share some stories and also speak to Parson, pick the best from him.
Well, if you guys keep picking my brain, I'll have nothing left.
I'm sure you have stories,
Okay.
Parson. Thank you.
Yes, I do. Horror stories. Let me bring you back to the time that when you first became a father. All right. I hope you
Right.
can remember something about it. When your child was born, or even earlier, when you discovered you're going to be a father, how did it feel? How did you feel? What were some of the thoughts that you had in your mind, whether it's good thoughts or maybe even concerns?
Hmm. I must say, Parson, the way to answer this question is broken into two parts.
Mm,
Two parts, two very distinct parts, right? Um, I think I became a father at a very late age, in my 30s. So I've seen my friends having kids. Many of them have gone before. They have one and two, so on and so forth, right? So I kind of expected and anticipated, okay, this is part of my family planning. I will have a kid coming around this point of time. I thought I was prepared, right? I've heard their stories. I've heard them saying how they change the diapers, how they manage the confinement nanny, how they do the feed, and so on and so forth, right? So those are stories that I hear, and I have those replayed and rehearsed in my mind before my boy came. Okay, but those were stories. Uh, it's very different when you are at the hospital door, when you are at the ward, when you are at the operating theater, when you're receiving your child for the first time. And it totally changed, right? Because the stories become personal. The activities become something that you have to do it hands-on, and there's really no time to react. And I cannot say this enough. There's almost impossible to prepare for. There are many situations. I remember a story distinctively. My boy had to be rewarded in the hospital because he regurgitated something, and so the doctor had to let him stay back in the hospital just to run a check to make sure that's fine. I mean, fortunately, it turns out well, but that amount of anxiety just went through the roof, right? Something that I cannot explain and I could not have anticipated. So those are
mm.
what I take away uh, of my first child when he came. Yeah,
Yep, I think many fathers go through the same thing. Hearing stories is one thing, and sometimes you say to yourself, well, doesn't sound that difficult until you're doing it.
yes,
Yeah, so thank you for sharing that. Yes, same thing, same with me, when I first became a father, that was like 31, 32 years ago. Uh, yeah, so many people have done it. How hard can it be, right?
exactly.
Yeah, but I wish I had more preparation. I wish I had a mentor, for example. I wish I had better examples to follow and people to turn to ask for help. You have been a father for many years now. How would you say to someone what fatherhood is all about? Sum it up in like a sentence, if you can.
Wow, that's tough, right? I think fatherhood, as I discovered, is actually a partnership with your child or children in your time on this earth. I think creating that partnership so that both child and father uh, spends their time well and meaningful when they are together. That's what I think it is.
Wow, that's profound. I really, honestly, because I've never heard anyone say it that way, a partnership, you know. I think that's a very interesting, new, revolutionary concept. Because usually we think of parent and child as a, the power differential, and the father is supposed to be responsible. Yes, we are still responsible. I think you're not saying you're not responsible, but I think having the long-term view, right? That's what we want to do. We want to become partners in life, to do things together and have a relationship.
Exactly, Parson.
What has been the most enjoyable part of fatherhood so far?
Um, I think just going back to my thoughts of what fatherhood is, right?
Mm,
I think I learned a lot from my child. I think he brings back some of those memories of what being a child is like to get things that I've forgotten because of the work, the life, the adult responsibilities that we have. Um, I enjoy learning from him a lot. And I also enjoy passing him the knowledge that I have. That exchange of experience has always been very enjoyable to me. And also to watch him grow, to see that he matures in a certain way. Those are the things that power me on every day. Yeah.
mm. Can you give an example what you learned from your child or
Mm.
children?
Okay. Um, my son is a very resilient person. He tries. Obviously, for some of the right and wrong reasons. Sometimes he wants screen time. Sometimes he wants to play certain games. Sometimes he wants to get certain items, and he puts his heart to do it, right? He talks to you, he negotiates with you, and he says that anything I can do so that I can get more time on my screen. Now, I I know people tend to judge like, oh, you're giving screens, you're doing that, but these are some of the exchanges that will happen in life, and I see that there is also a chance for him to practice social interactions. So I go along with that, right? But I realize that he's very persistent. He has he still have that very focused view, something that I think as adults he kind of remind me that we have to stick on to the goal, keep our eye on the goal. That's a very good reminder, right? That's something I really learned from my child.
How about parenting as a team? Because every child that has ever been born and will be born has two parents, right? A father and a mother. And as parents, we are supposed to parent as a team. How has it been working for you? And what would you say is helpful for both you and your wife to be able to parent as a team?
Hmm. I think this is a learning journey for everyone. To be fair, I think I don't know whether it's effective or not until I think we all cross a certain line in our lives, right? My boy is 10. I don't think we are anywhere near the end of trying to see is it effective or not. But I think what's important is parents must have a clear goal of what they want for the relationship between themselves and the child. Is your relationship one about handing over an independent life to the child or the ability to take care of themselves, or is yours one that exerts your presence as a parent and child relationship, which means there's a hierarchical order that we were referring to very traditionally. So those are the things that we have to be very clear, right? And if we are very clear about what we're trying to do with the child, uh, in his time with you under your care, then we know what are the steps to be taken, right? Just let me just give a very typical example, right? There are many tests and quiz and exams that uh, uh, the child will face in his younger years, right? But those are just one way of assessing the ability of the child, right? He has other aspects, social, street smartness, if I may say, And those are not tested in school. Those don't have a report card or grade. And those are lessons that the parents need to hand them to, right? And if you're clear about that, you see the big picture, you agree on the directions that you need to take as a parent together, then I think the partnership between both parents will be more effective. Sometimes there will be uh, disagreements around the actions, and that's because we are seeing things at the wrong level. Of course, having a good score in exams or quiz, now that's important, but we also should think about the overall well-being of the child, and I think that's sometimes easier said than done.
Yeah, I think you're right because we tend to focus on a certain set of markers or KPIs, and skills, but then we forget, the other sets of skills that are equally, if not more important. Um,
Right.
One of the things that I think uh, I realize, and I think every pair of parents realize is very soon, is that they have different parenting styles, and that's because we all come from different families, right? So when I ask parents, how many parenting styles do you think there are? So some will say four, and some will say 10. And my answer is, I think there are as many parenting styles as there are parents,
Exactly.
right? Yes,
Exactly.
because it's one of the things that affect your parenting style besides how you were parented, which is your modeling, right? Is your personality. And everyone has a slightly different personality type, right? And so even when you are able to parent, in a certain way, it will not be the same as your partner because of your difference in personality. And one thing I've learned also, another thing that affects your parenting style is the child, right? And that's why we parent one child differently from another child because the child is different, you see. And one of the other thing I also try to remind parents about is the key to good parenting is a strong marriage. Because once the marriage breaks down, it affects the parent-child relationship, as and so it's important for us to remember. This is what I tell expecting parents and new parents, that before you became parents, you were a couple. And by the time your parenting duties are over, right, because your child is grown up, married, moved out, and things like that, what do you have left? You are still a couple, you know. And I hope that you are still a couple and you can still find your marriage cert. All
Now it's
right.
digital, so it's hard
Now
to
it's
lose it.
digital. No, I still have my hard copy.
Hard copy, right?
Yeah, I was just clearing out my storeroom recently, and I found a hard copy. Oh, yes, I have a hard copy. I still have the yellow tube. You know the yellow tube where
Yes.
they put, yeah, I still
Yeah,
have
they
it.
roll it up and give it to you, right?
Yes, correct. Uh, okay, that's a precious thing. Don't throw it away. What would you say? Do you have something that is really heavy upon your heart you want to talk about, that you're passionate about?
I think also related to the part about having a third party view. I of late, or at least when COVID happened and a lot of things came to my mind, and it all started because one, um, different parents will have different work arrangements that they can have from their office, right? Like for myself, I'm a bit more flexible. I tend to work at home. Um, Mom is a bit more needed at the office, so she's at the office. So we develop different kinds of relationship and styles with the child. And I'm there physically sometimes, and she's there physically sometimes. I think the realization is that um, we have a father-child relationship. We also have a father-mother with child relationship. And we also have a father and mother relationship, like what you have described, right? I mean, your context was that after the child leaves the nest, then we asked you a couple, right? And I think that must be the realization because many times I observe, and also at times I'm also fallen into what I've said is that I leave the bad person's job to the other parent, right? Okay, you go and do this. You go and tell the child to do this, right? You always do this. Why don't you go and carry it? But I don't think that's the right way. I think the realization to me is that I developed a set of very special relationship with each child. I and as a parent together, the father and mother develops a relationship with the child together, and that's very important for you to realize, right? Because that means that how you conduct yourself and what's the expectations here, then you have that very different kind of considerations that you must think of. Like for example, as a parenting group, right? Father and mother, the ones I want for the child is very different, right? The ones I want for the child tend to be, for example, you are able to survive on your own. You are able to take care of yourself. You keep the house clean when you're at home. You dress and you clothe yourself. After coming back from school, you take your own lunch. Those are the things as parents we want you to be independent, and those are what we want as father and mother, right? But sometimes as a father, I share with you, I want to be a partner to him. I want to be his learning partner. I go through his syllabus together. I work on his programs together. I also want to be a gaming partner with him. I play games together. I talk about sometimes sports together with him. Pokemon cards. I want to be that role, you see, that mom is not feeling. Mom has the other part with him, right? Mom talks about how he should dress. Mom talks about how he should eat healthy, and so on and so forth. So I'm starting to realize that that difference is not always clear, but those are some of the considerations I hope people uh, start to think about. Yeah,
Yes, I think you brought up a very important thing, and that's important for all couples, all parents to realize that these differences, like you mentioned, right? The emphasis on things, the fathers will emphasize on certain things, or the perspective of the father and the mother are different. And this is not about who's right and who's wrong. It's just they're different. Okay. For example, mothers and fathers read to their children, but they read differently,
exactly.
right? Did the fathers go and attend a course on on that? No.
No,
It just came out very, very instinctively, very naturally. And that's how men and fathers are wired, right? And come to play, it's the same thing. Mothers and fathers play with their kids, but they play differently. All right. Fathers tend to push the children outwards, go, try, run faster, climb, jump, I'll catch you. And
exactly.
mothers will say, no, right? The mothers will rather play Monopoly, or some board games at home, right? Um, but this is exactly what the child needs, and I think all this has been, designed this way. Child needs to be urged to go out, to explore, to experiment, to try new things and take risks, but at the same time be able to turn around or come home at the end of the day to receive, to be refreshed and rejuvenated and recharged, to go out again the next day. And that's what we are experiencing as adults every day, right? We leave home to go out and fight the battles, and end of the day we come back, we kind of so-called retire, we rest, we recharge, right? And hopefully we receive the love and warmth and empathy from another human being, so that we are able to go out again the next day to fight all the battles and come back again. So that's actually why every child needs both parents, a mother and a father. I mean, just this area of play, all right, it does so much psychologically and emotionally to build up the child, uh, to be ready for the future. Yeah. So I think parents need to know that the differences that mothers and fathers have in terms of parenting, a lot of them are inbuilt. This is how it happens naturally, and it's good for the child. So don't try too hard to change each other. Don't try
Right.
too hard to, say this is the way we must do it. Yours is the wrong way, and things like that. So that's why I think the expert opinion and expert point of view is important for them to reconcile some of these things, and to understand what needs to be changed, and maybe some things don't need to be changed. In fact, you should celebrate it and you should do more of it, right? So that the child really gets what he or she needs in his or her development.
Exactly. Exactly.
Work-life balance is also a very big concern of fathers. How do you manage your work-life balance?
Uh,
What's
uh,
your secret?
I'm I'm questioning the word manage, or rather,
Okay.
getting by,
Cope.
coping, reacting, adapting. Um, I think first we kind of need to recognize that people have different priorities, right? There's no shame putting career or the family or the child first. Really, it's about the context and really it's about the opportunity and the space, and also maybe sometimes events that have happened that need you to place different people in different positions. I think first we have to recognize that. Um, and and if that's done, then I think the next thing is have that timetable or things that you need to do very transparent, really put both child and parents, right? Put out there, say that I have to do this by this time, I have to do that by that time. So let's just work something around that. The last thing you want to do is to slide it down the carpet and assume that others understand you, that assume that others will give way to you or assume others will work around your schedule. And I think that's very unfair for any party within the relationship, whether is it child, father or mother, right? Um, and that's how I get past it first, right? Of course, second thing is I be very open about it. I think sometimes when you look for employment, these are things that you look for. If you want to place family as one of the higher priority over your career, these are honest conversations that I think you have to bring back to the workplace, right? While there's no compromise in the quality of the delivery, but I think sometimes you have to be smart about selecting what you want to do and how you want to achieve those things. So those are some thoughts that I have. Obviously, I'm not saying I'm good at managing, but this is how I cope, right? So um, if I plan ahead, I'm able to give my colleagues and the management here enough time to react for my absence. Then I think it's being fair to the whole system. I think the whole point is just about being responsible for what you do, and I think that's also mirroring what I think fathers should be doing also.
I've been the one asking you all the questions. Now I'm going to give you the privilege of asking me one question.
I think this is a question that most people want to know, right? We go back to the thing that you talk about parenting styles, also on my passion about relationship, right? Now, how do you, as sometimes couples or parents, right, have that very initial discussion to talk about it? I really want to know from my experience. Right? How do you broach a topic, right? Sometimes um, we may have fears about, oh, if I say this means other people may judge me in this way, and my way may not be correct. How do you think we can, as parents, create that safe space for the communication to open, right? Especially between the child and both parents. Yeah. I give you maybe just put it in the very typical day example, right? Say
Mhm.
for example, as a daddy now, because I think for the child is long term, whether he, let's say, do well in all four subjects or just two out of four, I think daddy is kind of fine with it. But maybe mommy wants to hold on to a bit more of an academic performance now because he's in primary school and this should be the focus. And how many ways or is there any framework or tips or tricks that you can pass us, right? So that we can also replicate this or use these back in our own homes.
I think this conversation is not about, again, who's right or who's wrong, but
Yep.
rather, firstly, is to be able to take different perspectives. Okay. Now, perspective taking is a skill that not many people have because we have been brought up in a society where we value um, debate, argument, persuasion. All these are the things that we learn from the Greeks. The Greeks are the one who invented all these things, right? Debates, for example. And so we have learned to build a case, and argue that case and win the argument, win the person over through our persuasion and our facts and figures and whatnot, you know. Uh, but very often that is not what is needed because we are human beings, and as human beings, we have deeper needs than to be right. Needs like to be heard, you know, I have an opinion. I just want you to hear me. All right. A need to be understood, a need to be felt. So those kind of deep needs are not met very often through these kind of arguments or quarrels and things like that. They are met through perspective taking. That means, okay, let me really listen to you. Why is this so important to you? You know, why do you prefer to do it this way than the other way? Right? And a very classic example of perception, difference in perception, for example, is if you have seen a picture, two people looking at a number, all right? And the
Right.
number one, the one standing on the right looks at it and sees the number six. The one standing on the left sees it as number nine. Now, who's right? Who's wrong? None of them are right. I mean, both of them are right, and none of them are wrong. Then that is usually the case. In most often than not, that's the case. When you have a difference in perspective or opinions, both of you are probably right, and none of you are actually wrong. Okay, or both of you could be wrong, or both of you could be partially right and wrong at the same time. So we need to be open to these three possibilities that both are right, both are wrong, or both just needs more information. Okay, yeah, and that goes the same with parent-child conversations. Parents usually adopt the position that I'm right, you are wrong. If we don't agree, then probably I'm right and you are probably wrong. You see, and the father or the parent now has the task of persuading the child to agree with his or her view. All right. So that's counterproductive in many cases, I find. So the thing here is to develop a new skill, to learn a new skill of taking a perspective. There was a father who came to the workshop one time, and it was just a father's workshop, so no mothers was around. So he brought up this thing about, my children loves McDonald's, but my wife says no junk food. So I asked him, I said, what do you want me to say to you? Right? So in the end, I just said, this is what you need to do is have a conversation. It's not about what's wrong with McDonald's, okay? You don't start there. You start about, okay, why are you so strongly, against junk food? Okay, health. Now, we can all agree on health issues. We can all agree that we want better health. We want to help our children develop good health for the future. All right. Then we define what health is. All right. What is good for health and what's not good for health. And also, then we begin to uh, eventually come to the place where we kind of draw the line about what is good and what is not good. Now, the outcomes may not be what you are looking for, but the good thing about this is that the conversation continues. Because when that father asked me that question, the conversation has ended. Nothing to talk about anymore. Okay.
True.
Now that is a problem. That itself is a problem. When you are not able to talk about, continue talking about issues, continue to have conversations so that communication is ongoing, all right? And through communication, you actually understand each other better, right? And through that understanding, you actually grow closer. When communication stops, when conversation stops, that's where we begin to drift apart. You
Mm.
see? Yeah. So some people find that, I can't convince my wife, I can't convince my husband, so no point talking about it anymore. Yes, that will maintain the peace, but you're not growing closer. You're not developing more understanding of each other. All right. You're not finding out more about one another. Why do you feel so strongly about this? And sometimes it has to do with our experiences in the past that now, through those experiences, we have formed certain conclusions or convictions. I will not let that happen again. I must not do that again. You know, and then it becomes a very subconscious mental picture, a script that we follow without even knowing it. So through these conversations, sometimes we uncover those mental scripts. All right, and then we say, "Hey, why am I thinking that way? Oh, that was what I came to a conclusion to many years ago because this thing happened to me."
Good sharing. I took away one learning, Parcsen, as you're talking about uh the need to be heard, right? I again realized that actually when parents come together to decide on things, I think there must be a very clear understanding that there is a portion where everybody needs to be heard first,
Mm-hmm.
share each other, let the conversation go through, and then only go into a phase where you then need to decide on things, right? I think the challenge sometimes I see is that we mix up these phases when it's time to be heard, the other party thinks that it's time to decide, right? And assumes
Mm.
that you are overriding or you're putting your foot down, which could be a case of misunderstanding or miscommunication more than likely. I think separating that phase very clearly is something I take away.
Well, Kok Liang, I'm really appreciative. Thank you for being open, willing to share, your stories, your experiences, and the things you've learned. I'm sure fathers watching this will really benefit and be encouraged by it. So
Thank
thank
you,
you again.
Parks. Thank you, Parson. Thank you.